Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Thursday, August 23rd. This is Gina McGuire. Over the next couple of days, we will have some breezy winds across the Great Basin and the areas shaded in orange. Today along the Sierra Front and some breezy winds over southeast Idaho, but winds will increase in strength and aerial coverage on Friday and also on Saturday, mainly across Idaho and the southern half of the Great Basin. We'll have a few isolated thunderstorms across Utah today, and then tomorrow they'll continue over eastern areas with drier weather expected over the weekend. We'll also have quite a bit of smoke across the Great Basin with ongoing wildfires and wind spreading that smoke across the area. Looking at the last 24 hours, we saw a very good amount of lightning over the eastern and northern half of the Great Basin, especially across Utah and into southern Idaho. These thunderstorms over southeast Idaho into much of Utah were certainly wet, many heavy rain producers, and some also produced some large hail and gusty outflow winds. Over central Idaho, we didn't have quite as much precipitation, mainly gusty outflow winds and the lightning. Fire activity across the Great Basin was light yesterday with 17 new fire starts reported. Over the last 7 days, precipitation has been focused mainly across Utah and the Arizona Strip with kind of a spattering further north and east. This does not incorporate the precipitation we saw yesterday over southeast Idaho. Most of this precipitation has been below normal, but not quite as far below normal over parts of Utah. How this has affected our current fuel conditions: ERCs have dropped significantly across Utah and are now below the 50th percentile across much of the state, with the exception of the far north, but even in these areas, ERCs are between the 50th and 80th percentile. We still have some drier areas over western and northwest Nevada, up into western and central Idaho that have not received as much precipitation as areas further east. Therefore, ERCs are still above the 80th percentile. Looking at some of our ERC charts in our drier areas, in northwest Nevada, the bottom right chart shows the ERCs have come down from the records we saw earlier in the month. However, they are still above normal, and the same trend for the central Idaho mountains. Our satellite loop from this morning shows the area of low pressure that pushed a cold front through the Great Basin is now over the northern Rockies, and we will see that moisture moving eastward, with still some showers and thunderstorms remaining today over parts of Utah. Otherwise, winds will increase a little bit out of the west-northwest across Idaho and be breezy with clear skies along the Sierra Front as well. With quite a bit of fire activity and smoke across the Great Basin, this will show a forecast over the next couple of days of how that smoke is expected to disperse. The areas in darker gray are thicker smoke, and the areas in lighter gray are usually more elevated, not quite as thick smoke at the surface. Again, this is a forecast for the next couple of days, which will largely depend on fire activity. So looking at the loop here, starting today and going through the day today, you can see the smoke over the northern half of the Great Basin, still fairly thick, especially over northern Utah, Idaho into northern Nevada. And then we start to see that smoke slide a little bit further south as we get into especially towards Saturday. Now looking at the weather pattern later today, you can see the dry air moving across the Great Basin today, which will impact much of the area. Still some moisture lingering over parts of Utah for some isolated thunderstorms. However, dryness levels and fire potential have greatly reduced across the eastern half of the Great Basin, at least temporarily, as the moisture we saw yesterday was fairly widespread. Still very dry areas over the western and northern areas. Today, relative humidity will drop into the single digits to low teens over much of Idaho into Nevada and western Utah, and still be somewhat elevated over southern, central, and eastern Utah, where those isolated thunderstorms still may occur. Today, winds will be generally light to moderate. We'll see some moderate winds along the Sierra Front and over parts of southern Idaho, and also back into the Uintas and parts of the central Utah mountains. Most gusts will be around or below 30 miles per hour. Looking at Friday, we have a trough of low pressure swinging into the northwest. Still dry conditions over much of the Great Basin. However, winds will start to pick up ahead of this trough. Therefore, we do have some high risk over northeast Nevada into southern Idaho. Again, we have large fires in those areas or near those areas, plus recent lightning activity. Relative humidity about the same as it will be today, with general single digits to low teens in western and northern areas. And you can see on the wind picture how those winds increase over mainly southern Idaho into parts of northeast Nevada. We'll also have gusty winds and dry conditions over western Utah and southern and eastern Nevada, but most of those gusts will be generally around 25 miles per hour, with the stronger gusts further north. On Saturday, another trough swings into the northwest, which has a little bit more moisture than what we've seen recently. Most of that will stay out of the area on Saturday. Still have some lingering moisture over the eastern half of Utah again for some thunderstorm activity on Saturday, and there will be some moisture with these as well. So looking at the significant fire potential, still some breezy winds ahead of that trough, mainly over southern Idaho again with those dry conditions on Saturday. Looking at the relative humidity, again very similar picture to the last couple of days. Winds will be still breezy across southern Idaho, but not quite as strong as what we'll see on Friday, and still those breezy winds around 25 miles per hour also over southern areas of the Great Basin. Forecast amounts of precipitation over the next few days will be tied to those isolated thunderstorms over southern and eastern Utah, but certainly nowhere near as much rainfall as what we saw yesterday with those thunderstorms. As we move through the weekend and next week, there will be a change in the weather with that trough moving across northern areas. Approaching on Sunday, we'll see increased cloud cover, especially across parts of Idaho into northwest Nevada, with drier weather over the rest of the Great Basin. But winds will also increase and spread further south and west ahead of that trough. So very breezy winds, stronger than what we've been seeing over western and northern Nevada into parts of southern Idaho. So that will be a concern for our ongoing incidents, and also if we do see any new fire starts in those regions. On Monday, that trough swings further eastward. This will bring more cloud cover and some showers and thunderstorms to Idaho and generally northern Nevada. There will be some moisture with these thunderstorms, so it might be more of a scattered showers with embedded thunderstorm type situation and some cooler temperatures as we go through the weekend with this trough into early next week. So we don't have any high risk on Monday for any thunderstorms moving through to the north with those cooler temperatures and higher humidities, but we will continue to watch that. On Tuesday, that trough swings further eastward, pushing any moisture over eastern Idaho into Wyoming and parts of northern Utah. And you can see how the fire potential has moderated in the north, but still continued with the dry conditions and moderate fire potential over northern and western Nevada. As we go into Wednesday, a little bit more benign weather with still some drying in the western areas and areas of the Arizona Strip and Utah, and further north, a little bit more on the moist side. The 7-day total amount of precip, very similar for the thunderstorms the next few days in southern and eastern Utah, but also as that trough moves through to the north, we will see additional precipitation over parts of central Idaho, and this precipitation may dip a little bit further south. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us into the first few days of September, shows for below normal temperatures as those troughs move through to the west, and also some above normal precipitation in our north as we start seeing more of a fall-like pattern with troughs moving through, bringing cooler temperatures and some moisture to northern regions. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.